Ever imagine what happens when a single mistake costs your company $1 million?
Oof, that's a tough one to swallow.
Yeah, we're diving into a white paper today that starts with that exact scenario.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it happened at IBM back in the 1940s.
IBM, huh?
It's a fascinating look at how leadership and success were viewed back then and how those views have or haven't changed in today's corporate world.
I'm intrigued. What's the paper?
It's called A Case for Professional Development in a Corporate Setting, a heart-centered approach to conducting business and the heart-brain connection.
Okay, and who wrote that?
Adriana Rosales.
I haven't heard of them. Tell me more.
So picture this. It's the 1940s, and a young IBM employee makes a massive blunder.
How massive we talking?
$1 million mistake.
Wow. Yeah, I'd say that qualifies.
He's convinced he's about to be fired, even goes as far as drafting his resignation letter.
I can only imagine.
Finally musters the courage to face the music.
So what happened?
He goes to see Thomas Watson himself.
No way. The founder of IBM.
The one and only.
What'd he say?
Well, you'd think Watson would have flown off the handle.
$1 million back then was.
An astronomical sum, especially for a single employee error.
Exactly.
But that's what makes Watson's response so remarkable.
Okay, now I have to know. What'd he say?
Instead of firing the employee, he says, "Fire you. I just invested $1 million in your education."
Wow. Talk about seeing the bigger picture.
Right. This story isn't just about accepting failure. It highlights a profound shift in mindset. Watson recognized that investing in an employee's growth, even after a costly mistake, was ultimately more valuable than simply cutting ties.
It's about fostering a culture of learning and growth, rather than one of fear and blame. We see that a lot in today's most successful companies, right?
Exactly. Companies like Google, for example.
Their X division, right?
Yeah. Celebrating failure is a key part of their innovation process.
Makes you wonder how many other companies are missing out on breakthroughs because they're too afraid to make mistakes.
It's a good point. And Rosales argues that this shift in perspective is more crucial now than ever.
How so?
Well, she contends that traditional leadership models, often rooted in the language of human capital and resources, can be detrimental to fostering genuine connections and growth.
I see what you mean. These terms, while commonplace, can inadvertently reduce employees to mere line items on a balance sheet, overlooking their humanity and unique value.
And that can contribute to the alarming trend of employee disengagement and distrust in leadership that we see happening.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
Huge, actually. Rosales highlights that a staggering 40% of today's Fortune 500 companies are predicted to disappear in the next decade.
Seriously.
No joke. And she suggests that a failure to adapt to the changing dynamics of the workforce and embrace more human-centric leadership approaches could be a major contributing factor.
Wow, it really makes you wonder if we're measuring success by the right metrics. While profits and losses remain critical, are we overlooking the value of cultivating a thriving, engaged workforce?
Rosales suggests we are, and that perhaps we need a new model.
Okay, I'm listening. What does she propose?
A heart-centered approach. This approach emphasizes understanding the inner world of both leaders and employees.
Interesting. So how do we get there?
Well, before we delve into her proposed solutions, let's examine what she identifies as the core limitations of traditional leadership models.
Okay, so what's the first thing she discusses?
She talks about this thing called the spillover effect, which is often underestimated in traditional leadership models.
Spillover effect.
Yeah, it's this notion that a leader's emotional state, their energy, doesn't stay confined to the office walls.
Right, like when your boss is stressed and it impacts the entire team's mood.
Exactly. It's not just about leaving your problems at the door. It's acknowledging the human element we all bring to the workplace.
It's so true. We all pick up on each other's energy, whether we realize it or not.
Right. It's like this unspoken thing.
Exactly. And it's not just about the mood. Rosales argues that a leader's emotional state can actually cascade through the team, impacting decision-making, productivity.
Yeah, it makes sense if people are feeling stressed or anxious. They're probably not doing their best work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it can even impact the bottom line. But it doesn't stop there, does it? This negativity, it can follow people home.
Oh, absolutely. You take that stress home with you.
Right. It impacts their families, their well-being, even their health.
It's a ripple effect.
Exactly. And there was actually a study done on this back in 2000 by Caroline Bartel at NYU.
Really?
Yeah, they found that leaders' moods, both positive and negative, directly influence their team's performance and well-being.
That's fascinating, and it kind of makes you wonder if we're not doing enough to address this in traditional leadership training.
That's actually the second limitation of traditional leadership models that Rosales Staub brings up.
Yeah.
Their reliance on those generic training methods.
You mean those one-size-fits-all leadership workshops? I've been to a few of those, and I always walk away feeling like, okay, that was interesting, but how much of this actually applies to my day-to-day?
Right. Rosales Staub argues that simply running employees through these standardized training programs, focusing solely on external behaviors and skills, it ignores a crucial element,
Which is,
individuality.
it's so true. Everyone has different strengths, weaknesses, motivations, learning styles.
Exactly.
It seems like a more personalized approach is needed, don't you think?
Absolutely. And this is where Rosales Staub's heart-centered approach comes into play.
Okay, so tell me more about that.
It emphasizes tapping into the inner world of both leaders and employees.
Their inner world.
Yeah, instead of just focusing on external behavior, it encourages us to examine the underlying values, motivations, and emotions that are driving those behaviors.
Okay, so how do we start tapping into this inner world? It sounds kind of abstract.
Well, Rosales Staub introduces some really compelling research from HeartMath. Yeah, it's an institute that studies the connection between the heart and brain.
I remember reading something about that. It's pretty fascinating stuff.
It really is. They challenge that traditional view of the heart as simply a pump.
Right, just an organ.
Exactly. They're revealing it to be a complex system with its own intelligence.
So it's more than just pumping blood.
Way more. And here's the really interesting part.
Okay, I'm listening.
The heart actually has its own electromagnetic field.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and it's significantly stronger than the brain's.
Wow, I had no idea.
It's measurable even several feet away from the body.
No way, seriously.
Seriously. And this suggests a whole new level of interconnectedness.
It's like we're all connected somehow.
Exactly. And that our emotions, our energy, they can actually impact those around us in a very real, measurable way.
So, if I'm understanding this correctly, cultivating positive emotional states within ourselves, like gratitude, joy, compassion, it could actually create a ripple effect of positivity in the workplace. That's amazing. But I'm curious, how does this translate into tangible actions within a corporate environment? It can't just be about thinking positive thoughts, right?
Right. And that's where Rosales Staub lays out a framework.
Okay, tell me more.
It's built on 4 core principles: trust, courage, compassion, and service.
Those are pretty powerful principles.
They are, and by embedding these principles into the very fabric of a company's culture, Rosales Staub believes we can cultivate a more human-centric workplace.
So it's not just about being nice at work, it's about fundamentally shifting the way we approach leadership and decision-making.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we put these principles into practice?
Well, Rosales Staub then outlines 6 practical strategies for implementing this heart-centered approach in a corporate setting.
6 strategies? Okay, I'm ready. What's the first one? 6 strategies. Okay, I'm ready. What's the first one?
So the first strategy is all about empowering individuals.
Empowering individuals.
Yeah, and identifying high-potential leaders early on.
Gotcha. So recognizing those leadership qualities, those natural abilities, and providing opportunities for growth.
Exactly. And it's not just about finding those individual stars. Rosales Staub emphasizes that leadership is a team sport.
It's a team effort for sure.
Right. Senior leaders need to be aligned with their employees, not just in terms of skills, but also passions, their vision for the company, you know.
It's about creating that shared sense of purpose, making sure everyone feels like they're on the same team working towards a common goal.
Precisely. And that leads into her second strategy: compassionate decision-making.
Compassionate decision-making. I like
She
it.
uses a powerful example here. Imagine a company facing a tough decision.
Like layoffs.
Exactly, layoffs.
It's easy to see how a heart-centered approach could kind of get lost in a situation as stressful as layoffs. How does Rosales Staub suggest navigating that?
She argues that even in really challenging circumstances, like layoffs, it's crucial to prioritize transparency,
Transparency, okay.
empathy,
Right.
and respect for everyone involved.
So it's not about avoiding those tough decisions altogether. It's about how those decisions are made and communicated to employees.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging the human impact of these choices
That makes sense.
and providing support.
Support beyond just severance packages.
Right, maybe offering resources like career counseling to help people transition to new opportunities, demonstrating genuine care for their well-being, you know.
It's a good reminder that behind every business decision, there are real people whose lives are being affected.
Absolutely.
That leads perfectly into the third strategy, which focuses on Generation X.
Yes, Gen X.
Often overlooked, right?
Rosal Staub points out that Gen X often gets caught between, the baby boomers and the millennials.
Right, stuck in the middle.
But they have this unique set of skills and experiences that are so valuable in today's workforce.
They've really bridged the gap, haven't they, between the analog and digital worlds?
Precisely. They understand the power of face-to-face interaction, building those strong relationships. But they're also digitally fluent, comfortable, adapting to new technologies and new ways of working.
It's a powerful combination. So how does Rosal Staub suggest companies leverage this unique skill set?
She emphasizes the importance of recognizing and valuing the contributions of Gen X employees.
Okay, make them feel appreciated.
Yes, creating those opportunities for mentorship, ensuring they have a voice in shaping company culture, and fostering an environment where their experience is respected and utilized.
That makes a lot of sense. What's the next strategy on Rosal Staub's list?
The fourth strategy is about understanding individual competencies and embracing people analytics.
People analytics. Okay, so we're moving beyond just those surface-level performance reviews.
Exactly. It's about digging deeper, understanding what truly motivates each employee.
Their why.
Yes, their why. Identifying those strengths, weaknesses, and the reasons behind their behavior.
It seems like this would require a much more individualized approach to employee development.
Absolutely, and that's where people analytics comes in.
Okay, so tell me more about that. What is people analytics?
It's about using data to get a much deeper understanding of your workforce,
Okay.
to identify patterns, personalized development plans, and even predict future success.
So it's not just about collecting data, but about using it strategically to create a more engaged and fulfilled workforce.
Precisely.
Mhm.
Now, on to strategy number 5,
Yeah.
measuring what matters.
Measuring what matters, I'm intrigued. What does Rosal Staub mean by that?
She argues that so many companies get laser-focused on tangible metrics.
Like sales figures and profit margins.
Exactly. And they overlook the intangible but equally important contributions of their employees.
Things like creativity, problem solving, collaboration, the qualities that are harder to quantify but are absolutely essential for a thriving company culture.
Exactly. Rosal Staub encourages companies to find ways to recognize and reward those intangible contributions.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about valuing the whole employee, not just their output on a spreadsheet.
Precisely. And that brings us to the 6th and final strategy, which ties back to the core of Rosal Staub's argument: investing in employees' emotional intelligence and self-awareness.
This is where that heart-centered approach really comes full circle.
Exactly. Rosal Staub emphasizes the importance of providing employees with opportunities to develop their self-regulation skills, to manage stress, cultivate a more positive internal dialogue.
Because ultimately, it's those inner qualities that will determine their effectiveness as leaders, colleagues, and individuals.
Precisely. And investing in their emotional well-being ultimately benefits everyone. It leads to greater resilience, improves communication, and a more positive and productive work environment.
It sounds like Rosal Staub is advocating for a pretty significant shift in how we view success in the corporate world. It's not just about the bottom line, but about creating a workplace where people feel valued, supported, and empowered to bring their whole selves to work.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing our shared humanity. We're not just cogs in a machine, but complex individuals with emotions, values, and a desire to find meaning and purpose in our work. And by creating a work environment that honors those aspects of ourselves, we can unlock a whole new level of success, both individually and collectively.
I love that. So for our listeners out there, as you reflect on this conversation, ask yourself, what is one small step you can take today to bring a little more heart into your work life? Perhaps it's practicing more gratitude, approaching challenges with compassion, or simply taking the time to truly connect with your colleagues. Remember, even small changes can create a ripple effect, leading to a more fulfilling and meaningful work experience for everyone. Until next time.